All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 17th of October, 2025. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Well, Flyers and Winnipeg Jets last night. We're going to recap the game where the Flyers lost to a very good Jets team. A lot to talk about with that game. Get to a couple of DMs and messages I got during and after the game as well. And we'll get into fine detail in the breakdown of this one. Tough loss for the Flyers. Really good team in Winnipeg. But we'll discuss that. But before we get to that, as promised, I mentioned a couple times this week on the podcast that I would have an update on my health, and I do. And I realize that not everybody is on Twitter or X or Facebook or whatever. I had posted a video yesterday, which I'll put a link to in the description of this episode of the podcast, explaining in pretty fine detail the situation with my health. But the long and short of it is this: last Thursday, I had a CT scan of my chest and my abdomen. We were going to drink the contrast and everything. And then on Monday, I had an MRI of my pelvis to determine the efficacy of the treatment that I had, which was 16 weeks of chemotherapy with something called oxaliplatin, and then a 46-hour infusion of 5-FU, and had a little bit of a break. Then we did 28 sessions of targeted radiation, along with oral chemo treatment called capecitabine, where I would take 4 oral chemo pills in the morning and 4 at night, to make the tumor and the area they were hitting with the radiation more weakened and susceptible to it, to make that effectiveness better. I got the results the other day, and I met with my oncologist and my care team yesterday, Dr. Altman, and I'm very happy to report that I had what is called a complete radiologic response. There's no cancer cells, no viable cancer cells in my body. Now, it's unbelievable. It's the dream scenario. It's when we laid out the treatment plan, Dr. Altman told me this is the goal. This is exactly where we want this to go. And this is where, after all these months later, we end up. There could have been lighter forms where I had a really good response, but not complete. But I had a complete response. And it's humbling. It's obviously great to hear. It's not something where I'm jumping up and down and pumping my fists and going crazy, because it doesn't mean it's the end of my journey. There's still a chance, a pretty small chance, that I'll have to have some sort of resection surgery, but that's very small at this point. But there's a lot of going through this cancer journey isn't just physical. It is very physical and grueling, and it was. And there were times, as I said in my other video, that before I would hit the red record button on this very computer, before recording an episode, I'd have my head on this desk and wonder if I could do the episode, or, during that day, hope that I took a nap and didn't wake up. There were days I wanted to die, and I felt like I couldn't fight anymore. And I don't say that to be sensationalistic or anything, but that's the reality of it. And because of that, there is a lot of mental baggage that I need to untangle, that I need to deal with. And I will. I'm bleeped up in here in the brain now. I don't have the cancer in my body anymore, but there is a mental struggle and a very big mental part of this that I now have to really focus on and put a lot of hard work into, and which is exactly what I'm going to do. And I spent an hour on the phone yesterday with Eddie Olczyk, who will be in town coming up on Monday when the Flyers play the Kraken, and we talked about it for about an hour. And he's been a great help to me because he went through it. The first thing that hits you when you hear this news is, well, thank God. But there's a lot of guilt. You feel a lot of guilt. Why did it work? This exact treatment plan worked for me, but it not work for somebody else's brother or their mother or someone else's friend. And the result was different. There's a guilt that I feel with that. And there's a lot of other things. Having cancer and going through that treatment is very isolating. So there's a lot of things that I need to repair, which I plan to do. But obviously, the news is very good. And there's been such great support throughout my journey, and it's not over, from the viewers, listeners, just Flyer fans in general, people that have listened to me on the radio over the years. Obviously, my close friends, my inner circle, my family, my wife, who has been absolutely incredible. My employers, whether that's the Flyers, Dan Hilford, Danny Briere, Keith Jones, players, John Tortorella, who I spent some time with on the phone yesterday, gave me a call, just to kind of say you did it. You didn't F it up. But it's been a wild journey, and every single element of that support is part of this. It's absolutely, I don't get to this point without it. So I'm indebted to all of you for the rest of my life, because now I have a little bit more certainty in that longevity, as much as we can have. And I look forward to living again, and I look forward to putting in the work to rebuild myself mentally. And I look forward really to something that came out of this, which was a purpose in helping other people that have gone through, will go through, are going through, or have loved ones that are in any of those stages with cancer or whatever it is. That I'm going to do everything I can to create as much awareness for prevention or how to deal with it, advice, just be an ear, whatever it might be. That doesn't end for me right here. That is now a purpose in my existence on this planet. I met with a guy last night at the Flyers game that had shot me a DM. That he was a guy that had encouraged me a few times throughout this process. And his name is Doug. And he sent me a note after he saw my video that I put out yesterday. And he's in the fight right now. His is a little different than mine, which we discussed. And he was at the game last night. So I went up and sat with him in his suite for the second period and talked to him. And he's still in the fight. And I told him, I said, you ever have that moment of weakness, or you need a pep talk, or you just need to scream or whatever, you shoot me a DM and we'll get on the phone. I'm there for you. I don't know Doug. I just met Doug last night. I literally walked into the club suite he was in, and I said, is there a guy in here with a name that starts with a D? I didn't know his name was Doug. And then we sat down, we watched the game, and we just talked. And that's what I can do to pay it forward. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So there'll be more things on the way, more formal things that I'm going to do as well. But I have to make something good out of all of this. Some people look at it and go, were you mad that you ended up with this cancer and had to go through this fight? I didn't understand it at first, but it turned out to be a calling, and I was chosen for a reason, and I can use my platform to help other people, and other people have helped me. So I have to keep that moving forward, and that's exactly what we'll do. So everybody, whether you sent me a message, whether you just said a prayer, whether you didn't even send a message, or you just thought about it and hoped that I felt better or was going to get through this, whatever level of anything, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Community meant so much to me and still does. And it's renewed my faith in humanity in a huge, huge way. But let's get back to what we do. Let's get back to living and what we do here on this podcast. We talk about a sport. I'll say the sport saved my life because of the way I approached it, because of the sport, shift by shift, period by period. It's the only way I was going to make it through what was now a total of 84 doctor's appointments since January 4th. Let's talk about the game we love, because sports is so much about getting away from the serious things in life. It's about escape. It's about the elation of winning and the hurt of defeat, and sometimes going through the losing makes the winning sweeter. Not easier, but sweeter. And we see that with Phillies fans right now. And we're looking for this Flyers team to rebuild and get back into that kind of mindset with us as sports fans and hockey fans and Flyers fans. So let's talk about Flyers and Jets. Final score of the game, 5-2. The particulars. Let's get to the particulars. The shots in the game, really low event game. I don't know that I've seen one this low this season across the league. 17 shots for the Flyers, 15 for Winnipeg. That's incredible. We talk about shots allowed versus shots for in yesterday's episode. Winnipeg gave up 34 shots a game. Flyers are giving up roughly 34 shots a game. In this game, a total of 32 shots. That's incredible. Flyers had 3 in the first period, 12 in the second, and only 2 in the third. Winnipeg is a team that can shut you down in the third period, and I'll tell you why in a second. Winnipeg, only 15 shots. In the third period of this game, they go into it with a 3-1, with a 2-goal lead. So a well-coached, really good team that won the President's Trophy last year and pretty much coming back, running it back, knows that it makes no sense for them to sit there and try and go up and down the ice in odd man rushes and give the other team an opportunity to get good scoring chances. And they know they got that guy back there, Connor Hellebuck, one of the best goalies in the world, playing well to bail them out when the Flyers do get scoring chances. So it made no sense for them to push to trying to get to 20-some shots. You don't get anything extra in the standings for getting to 20 shots. Who cares? They got 5 goals, all said and done, on 15 shots. Flyers got only 2 goals on 17 shots. And it was a kind of bizarre game, too. Some bizarre goals. So let's get right to them. The first goal was scored in the first period. It was Vlad Nemestikov when Winnipeg scored at 5:45. A play in front that kind of ends up just kind of bizarre, like the puck kind of bouncing around, really jammed up Ersson with a lot of traffic with both his defender and a Winnipeg player. It ends up on Nemestikov's stick on the left side if you're looking at the net, and he's able to punch it home. That puts Winnipeg up 1-0. Niederreiter and Nyquist with the assist. That's what we did in the first period. Winnipeg only had 5 shots in the period. Go to the second. 7:01 of the second period. There's a turnover that happens on the right wall. Sanheim is coming out from behind the Flyers net and throws a pass up to the wing to Nikita Gorbenkin, who is at the end of a shift and looking just to break the puck out. But the puck kind of rolls on Sanheim. So the pass of the puck is kind of like wobbling already. And as it gets to the boards, it hops over or hits and deflects off. He can't corral it. Nikita Gorbenkin's stick. It's a turnover to Gabe Vilardi, who gets it across to Mark Scheifele, who fires a shot and beats Sam Ersson. Great shot. I mean, Scheifele is piping hot right now to start this year. He just beats Ersson, clean, clear-sighted shot. And now all of a sudden, Winnipeg's up 2-0. You're like, oh my goodness, this team 2-0. And we can't get anything here on Hellebuck. The Flyers got 12 shots on them. They finally break through at 16-22 when Owen Tippett picks up his second of the season to make it 2-1. Zegras and Sanheim with the assist. And this is like a kind of like a 2-on-1, sort of. The defenseman takes away the pass opportunity for Tippett by really committing to Dvorak. So Tippett's able to get pretty close to that. But the defenseman, I thought, made the right decision because there was some back pressure from Jonathan Taves on Tippett. But Tippett just wires one and beats one of the best goalies in the world and beats him on a clear-sighted shot. And that puts the Flyers on the board, 2-1. But then at 17:43, this is just horrible puck luck as Morgan Barron, not Murray Barron, the former Flyer, Morgan Barron, is able to put Winnipeg back up 3-1. Now, this is a shot that comes from the left side. Adam Ginning gets a stick on it, kind of the shaft of the stick, deflects the puck. Puck is clearly now going far side wide. Over on far side wide, really good coverage and positioning by Noah Cates on Morgan Barron, pushing him out, boxing him out. The puck hits Noah Cates in the rump, kind of touches Morgan Barron, and ends up in the back of the net. It's like, are you kidding me? Over an 82-game season, these things happen for you and against you. But against Winnipeg, you're like, oh my goodness, of all the teams for this to happen against, it's Winnipeg. This last thing we need to do is bad puck luck against a team like Winnipeg. but that's what happens. I actually got a tweet from a guy after that said to me, can this Ayrson experiment be finished? Dude is not a good NHL goalie. He will have random hot games, but he's bad more than he is good. Blaming him for that third goal after basically a double deflection off the rump, the whole thing, like, come on. I'm all for holding the goalie accountable. I didn't love the Scheifele goal because it was clear-sighted. It was a great shot, but that's a save. Like I need my goalie in this game with that goalie at the other end to make that save. He didn't make it. But the Barron goal, there's literally nothing he can do. The only way he's making the save is he gets completely lucky after what is basically a double, almost triple deflection. So that's how the Flyers enter the third period in the game, down 3-1. Now, Winnipeg last year won the President's Trophy. They were a great team last year. Unbelievable. 24-25 season. When they went into the third period with the lead in games last year, when I talk about being able to put away a team, and this is pretty much the same team, they were 41-0-1. That's ridiculous. 41-0-1 when going into the third with a lead. They scored their most goals in the third period of any period at 103. 87 in the second, 74 in the first. They also gave up 76 goals in the third period, but they seemed to outscore their opponents. So that's a team that knows how to put teams away. That's how you win a President's Trophy. Good depth, you got great players, you got the whole package. So they go into the third period, up 2 goals, and then at 9:40 on the power play, Mark Scheifele with an absolutely beautiful one-timer on if you're looking at the net, the left dot. This cross-ice pass, I didn't even think the Flyers on the PK here misplayed this. I thought their positioning was good. It was a great cross-ice pass from Kyle Connor. I would say dot to dot, but it was even, I think, further than that. I think Connor was closer to the hash mark on the right side. Wires a pass all the way across the ice, a little sauce on it too, to Scheifele, who one-times it just inside the post. Ersson gets the slightest of piece on it. It's the furthest a goalie will ever have to travel. It is one of the hardest saves in hockey to make, that one. And that puts Winnipeg up 4-1. Iafallo, Connor with the assist. That's Scheifele's now 5th goal of the season. Flyers down 4-1. Time's running down. They pull the goalie early. Mishkov gets on the board at 17:39. His first of the season after a really nice play from Noah Juleson. I was really surprised by the move that he made to kind of dip around a defender and throw a backhand pass to Mishkov, which is kind of a goal that doesn't mean much in that game, but could mean a lot more. So we'll talk about that in a second. And then eventually into the empty net, Tanner Pearson scores, and it's a 5-2 final. The Mishkov goal, why that it got him within 1 at the time before the Pearson, or 2 at the time before Pearson made it a 3-goal game with the empty netter. But you hope that goal, because even though it didn't pay dividends in last night's game or the result, is the one that gets him going. Because to me, he was clearly starting to squeeze it a little bit. His body language looked a little frustrated. I always think for guys that have had tremendous production success in hockey, they go through slumps and it bothers them. But I think that's exacerbated. That's even more pronounced when it's done to start a season. You want to start strong because you're looking forward to a new season, a new opportunity, and you want to get going and you want to be on your game right away. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Like we've talked about Tyson Forster as notoriously been a slow starter at times in his career so far. He's got a goal already. That's good. It's good. Owen Tippett's got a couple already. Mishkov was getting frustrated, and getting that goal, maybe that releases the pressure. And now we can start to reap the benefits through the rest of October, November, December, October, or January, February, March, April, whatever it is. And he gets going as a result of that goal. Even though it didn't mean much last night, it could be something that going forward could be the catalyst to really get him back on, maximizing production in games, because they need that. They absolutely need that from Mishkov, and he knows that. He's not going to shy away from the big moment. We know he shines in those moments. So Flyers lose the game 5-2 over the Winnipeg Jets. They'll be back at it Saturday when they face the Minnesota Wild, who are off to a 2-2 start. They've had one game on this road trip already. And the difference is, like Winnipeg, you thought maybe, okay, well, they're traveling. They're from Winnipeg, time zone, the whole thing. They'd played the Islanders a couple of days ago. Before I left the building on Monday night when the Flyers beat the Panthers in the home opener, Winnipeg's bags were already being moved into the building. They were already in town. They've been in town laying in wait. So they had a couple of days eating our fine cuisine and hanging out in Philly, practicing and stuff and orientating here already. That won't be the case for Minnesota because they play coming up tonight in Washington. Now, it's not a far travel for Minnesota from Washington to Philadelphia, but they play Washington tonight at 7. And then they got to play the Flyers on Saturday night at 7. So they're in a back-to-back. Flyers aren't. So that is an advantage to the Flyers. Now, when you play against Minnesota, even though it's been just a 2-2 start for them, obviously, just like Scheifele and Connor for Winnipeg, or when you face a team like Edmonton and McDavid or Tampa and Kucherov, you got to be really cognizant when a certain guy's out there, and that's Kirill Kaprizov, who just signed that incredible contract, and he's off to an incredible start. Got 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in 4 games. So that's a guy. I mean, he's played 22 minutes a night, got 9 points already. So obviously the Flyers will have to be very cognizant on controlling Kaprizov. Now, in the game against Winnipeg, I don't recall a shift that the Cates line wasn't out there against the Scheifele line. Now, they had the power play goal. Krabenkin was on the ice when Scheifele scored his first goal in that game, but that was because he was getting ready to go off for a change. Rick Tocchet clearly wanted the matchup of the Cates line versus their top line with Scheifele and Connor and go about it that way. I would imagine he's going to want the same thing when Kaprizov's out there for a couple of reasons. One, because that line can defend really well, and that line can also, hopefully, keep Minnesota out of the Flyers zone. They're a very good territorial line, playing a lot of their shift in the opposition zone. It's hard to score in the NHL from 160 feet. That you want to be that far away. And that's a good way to control Kaprizov, keep him down there instead of in the offensive zone. But he'll get his chances just because he's a great player, and that's what great players do. So, again, not a lot of shots in the game. Going right back to my theory. It is not about quantity. It is about quality. And the scoring chances for Winnipeg last night, 3 of them within a foot of the blue paint. The other one, a cross ice one-timer on the power play, and then the empty netter. So you see it plain as day in that game last night. So we'll see where it goes from there. So that Flyers will be against the Wild coming up on Saturday. Let's get to a couple of emails real quick. This one comes from Aubrey. Frequent emailer to me. You can always send me an email at jason.myrtetus, Myrtetus, @gmail.com. He says, hi, Jason. First of all, so glad to hear that you are cancer-free, my friend. What great news. Now, stay healthy. That's going to definitely be the goal. I am more cognizant of what I put into my body, how I treat it, be a better friend, listen to it, all of those things. He said, so I've been reading some of the posts by some so-called Flyer fans across the different social media platforms to trade Ersson. Zegras is lazy. TK is terrible. Michkov is fat. What the hell are these people watching? A blown assignment by Drysdale on 1 goal, a fluke off Cates' back, and an empty net goal. No, not the best outcome, but how many quality scoring chances from the Flyers? Hellebuck is arguably the best goalie in the league and showed why. Against other teams, maybe they buried 2 more, and this is a tie game. But come on, fans, 4 games into the season and already turning on the team. Yeah, they got booed off the ice in the first period. I don't think it's just because they were down 1-0. I think it's because there was only 3 shots on goal. The perception of 3 shots on goal. The shots were 5-3. And I think we have to start accepting that low shot totals are that's the NHL now, even more pronounced than last year. Aubrey goes on to say, now that Michkov has lit the lamp, things will change. The passes and vision that he and Zegras can pull off are not things that you see every day in a hockey player. We are heading in the right direction, and there will be losses and streaks along the way. And maybe Vladar is the better option in net right now, but I really like where this team is headed. Let's go Flyers. So good email from Aubrey. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good stuff. And, yeah, that's a tough opponent. And I got this tweet from Jack. He said, at Jason Mert, how the hell did the Flyers get to open the season facing the Panthers twice, back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champs, Carolina, one of the best teams in the league, and then Winnipeg Jets and Hellebuck? And he said, my goodness. Well, look, it doesn't. You can't complain about that. Who cares? That's the schedule. Frankly, I'd rather face those teams and have to be sharper early. Do I want the Patsies early because I want to build a lead in the standings? Yeah, I guess so, to some degree. But I also want to be put to the ultimate test early. And if you look at an NHL schedule nowadays, if you look at the Flyers schedule, I mean, this is a 32-team league, and it's more watered down because of that, with depth on teams because of that. But the parity in the NHL is real. So you've had Florida twice, a loss and a win. You've had Carolina, which you got a point out of. You had Winnipeg, President's Trophy winning team last year. Minnesota, good team coming in Saturday. Seattle Monday, and that's a game you can't overlook. Then you're going to see Ottawa on the road, who was a playoff team last year, looking to take that next step. I mean, there's no easy teams. The Islanders, is that easy? I don't know. I don't know what they are yet. Pittsburgh, it's always Flyers and Pens is always tough. They don't look like to me like they're going to be a good team. Certainly not a playoff team. Nashville, same thing. But Toronto, Calgary, Dustin Wolf, in year 2, can he be even better? Montreal made the playoffs last year. Ottawa again. Edmonton, who's been to back-to-back Cup finals. St. Louis, who looks like the real deal again. Dallas, I think one of the best teams in the league. And Mikko Rantanen, they're now full-time. Off to a good start. I mean, it's tough. St. Louis again. Jersey, Tampa. I mean, it's a murderer's row of a schedule. Yeah, you see like Buffalo on there. Buffalo's got some talent though, but they just haven't been able to maximize it. But right after Buffalo, you get Colorado and Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. Yeah, then you get San Jose, but then you get Vegas. You got to deal with that squad. And then you have Carolina back-to-back and Montreal. Like, it's tough. It's a tough schedule. So don't worry about these teams that they started with. You're going to see every team in the Western Conference twice, once at home and once on the road, and you're going to see your division teams and your conference teams a little more. Schedule is what it is. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a tough schedule to start with, but it's not on my pecking order of things to complain about for sure right now. So we'll see where they go Saturday. Got to bounce back. Saturday's important with the team playing the night before and how you respond. This league's all about how you respond because you're going to lose games. That's the way it is. How you respond in game to adversity and how you respond game to game from adversity. Success, failure, all the things that go with it. So we'll see how that plays out on Saturday. Game at 7:00 Saturday night when the Flyers take on the Minnesota Wild. We'll talk about it with Bill Meltzer on Monday. We'll also look back at the week that was for the Flyers and the week ahead and much more. We'll have a lot to discuss coming up with Bill on Mondays with Meltzer. So join us then. Everybody have a great weekend. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You truly made a difference. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you Monday on a brand new Flyers Daily.